Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome back to the National Results Operations Center. Final hour to go as we begin to wrap up the 2021 municipal elections. The Electoral Commission leadership is back again to brief the nation on the developments in terms of how South Africans are voting. Without much ado, it's been a very long day. I want to call to the podium Dr. Nomsa Masuku, Commissioner of the Electoral Commission, to give an update to the nation. Dr. Masuku.
Thank you very much, Kate. Good evening, South Africa. Good evening, all that are here and those of us and those that are joining us virtually. The following is a statement of the Electoral Commission. Voting in the 2021 municipal elections is progressing across the country, and over 8 million South Africans have, as at 5 p.m., cast their votes at 23,148 voting stations, including the few whose opening was delayed in the morning. We encourage eligible voters who have not voted to use the remaining hours to go out and vote. Voters are reminded that they must vote only where they are registered. They can check their voting station details by dialing *120*42# or SMS their identity document to 32810. The contact center on 0800 11 8000 is also open until 9 p.m. tonight to assist voters. We have noted reports from our call center regarding some voters that registered who can't find their names on the voters' roll or the approved what we call MEC 7 list. The Commission is attending and responding to complaints as they are raised. The MEC 7 list has been updated, and we continue to communicate with affected voters. Investigations have also been conducted, into the reported shortage of ballot papers in several voting districts. As pointed out earlier, there should be no shortage because the Commission procured 100% of the ballots needed. We are happy to report that the shortages from distribution issues have been resolved, and the Commission continues to monitor voting station performance in this regard. The Commission also reassures voters that sufficient universal ballot templates, also known as UBTs, have been procured, and there should be no shortages. Voters are encouraged to report shortages when experienced. The Commission, together with the South African National Council for the Blind, developed a UBT to assist persons with disabilities and special needs to have an independent and secret vote during elections. Earlier, we shared with the nation the few issues that have been reported to the Commission. We would like to present progress on these matters as follows. All the 20 voting stations that did not open in KwaZulu-Natal due to community protests have now opened. In the Eastern Cape, the 19 voting stations that did not open, also because of community protest, or rather more accurately, civil unrest, opened and now are processing votes. The Commission has fixed tents that have been blown away by strong winds in the Free State and Northern Cape. The Commission wishes to reinforce the following. Voting will continue throughout until 21 hours tonight when voting stations close. Voters who are at the voting station or in a queue at 21 hours are allowed to vote. And I emphasize, voters that in the queue, in the voting stations at 21 hours at close will be processed and allowed to vote. Voters must have their ID documents with them and are reminded that each ballot paper must be stamped on the reverse. As the chairperson has been asking, please do check that the ballot papers are stamped on the reverse side. Voters are also reminded that it is prohibited to take a photograph of a marked ballot paper. This is essential to protect the secrecy and integrity of the vote. After voting stations close at 2100 and voters in the queues have voted, counting will begin. The first results are expected after midnight on these boards. The Commission has received reports of unrest in some parts of the country, and the CEO and his team will take questions if there are any on these matters. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Masuku. I'm going to open the floor for questions. State your name and the media house. If a question has been asked, please do not repeat it. We are counting down. 9 o'clock, we must be ready for our officials and voters as they close the voting station. I've got 3 questions this side. If my colleagues can assist me, I've got 3 this side. Is the first batch of questions.
Thank you. My name is Noni Mukati from Independent Media. Can we have a breakdown on the voter turnout in various provinces? And the breakdown should include the demographics, as the youth, how many youth, young people voted, as well as women and men. Thank you.
My name is Njanji Jauke from the SABC News Channel. 8 million voters having voted or cast their ballots by 1700. What does it tell you as the IEC in terms of voter turnout? Are you happy that, is that an indication of a good turnout or of a poor performance? And then, just the question that I just wanted to know in terms of turnout. Thanks.
Good evening, Kaya Koko from the Mail and Guardian.
May I please request a bit of volume up? Please speak a bit loudly. Thank you so much.
Sorry about that. My name is Kaya Koko from the Mail and Guardian. I just wanted to know whether the IEC has actually tabulated the number of people who stayed away because their names did not appear on the voters' roll, and whether this had an impact in the low numbers turnout that we've seen so far as of 5-6 p.m. And as well, the new system that the IEC introduced to check voter registration, and in particular VDs. Does the IEC accept that its malfunctions or alleged malfunctions was the reason for people not being on the voters' rolls when they were registered in those areas? Thank you.
Okay. I've got 3 hands this side.
Good evening. My name's Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh. I'm here as an analyst with Newsroom Africa. My question follows on the previous question, which relates to the registered voters who were unable to vote and the MEC 7 list. In addition to the number of voters that have been affected, could the Commission also tell us whether at this stage in previous elections there are more voters now that have been unable to vote compared to past elections? Can you give us a comparative sense of the last election and how many registered voters were unable to vote? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My name is Mpo from ISPSA. I just want to find out about KwaZulu-Natal 20 VTs or voting stations and the Eastern Cape 19 of them, if they are subjected to the 9 o'clock closing time, or maybe there's a mechanism that you guys came up with. Perhaps they're going to get a special time, or they're also subjected to 9 o'clock, since there was an unrest day.
My name is Bungalo from Newsroom Africa. There was an incident in Gqeberha involving the DA's Helen Zille, where she was frog-marched from a polling station. I just wanted to find out if the commission has received a report on that and if they can share the details thereof.
Hello, Paige Muller here with Times Live. I'm just requesting to know, speaking to some of the politicians around here, they've raised concerns about the new management devices. They're concerned that they're interfering with the numbers, the turnout, and people's ability to vote. Do you feel the devices are a problem, or are they not?
I'm taking the last two questions before I allow, last three questions before I allow the panel to respond.
Okay, Busichi Mamba from the SABC. I'm interested in this situation where people haven't appeared on the voters' roll, or what you call the NEC 19 list. Is this a new phenomenon? Is this something that has happened in previous elections? And in as much as you say there will be an investigation, do you have a sense of what might be the cause of this particular situation?
It's Natasha Fury here from SABC News. Just to follow up with the VMD devices. Earlier on, Mr. Mamabolo mentioned that I think 10 of them were problematic. Has the issue been sorted out? Furthermore, I'm not so sure if you're aware, but we got a report that would...
Can I request just you repeat?
Okay.
Give us a bit of volume.
Okay,
I know it's
sorry.
been a long day.
Commissioner Masuka, apologies.
Yeah.
So in
please.
terms of the voter management devices, earlier on it was mentioned in the briefing in the afternoon that I think 10 out of the 29,000 were problematic. Have they been fixed? Also, we've received reports that Ward 131 in Ekurhuleni Tembisa, IEC officials are actually turning voters away, specifically around the issue of the MEC. Yes, and then the last question. Earlier on, I asked about the Change Party leader, Lisiba. I understand he had a meeting with Tate Mamabolo and Sheburi. What was the outcome? Because he was now saying that the elections need to be nullified because the IEC erred on their part. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Let's take the last one.
Here.
Thank you. It's Sam Kelly here from the SABC as well. Mine will stick to the poor voter turnout. Can the blame be apportioned to the IEC for, one may say, allegedly dismally organizing these particular elections, looking at the low voter turnout? Particularly, I was in the townships earlier on in Soweto. The voter turnout was so bad that you would see people literally having parties, drinking, and socializing with their friends instead of going to the polls. Have you, as the IEC, as a collective, failed to advertise and to essentially get those South Africans to go out and register? And if those who are registered, out of the 26.2 million that have registered to go out and essentially vote, have you failed in that particular mandate? And in essence, the second question would be, is this a vote of no confidence against the current political system and the political parties that are on the ballot? Because with voters not going out, they're essentially voting and they're voicing out that they're not content with the current political parties. Thank you.
Juanita Hunter from News 24. I just wanted to find out, in terms of the resolving of those people who are not on the voter list because of the voter management device, how many people are we talking about? There was a number of 32,000. If you could just confirm the number, and will this be resolved by 9 p.m.? It's now 8:21. What happens to those people? And then you said 8 million people voted at 5 p.m. That's about 30% voter turnout. What are you expecting? What is the percentage that the IEC is expecting? And is it fair to say that this may be the lowest voter turnout in election history in South Africa? Thank you.
May I pause this group of questions? Let me allow the panel to deal with these particular questions. After that, we'll take another round. We've got voting stations closing at 9. We're going to spend a limited time here. IEC panel, if you may please respond from where you're sitting, the number of questions.
Thank you, Kate. If I may respond to the issues regarding the VMD, and then also maybe just make some comments in terms of the numbers. There was a number of questions, so let me just try and give one response to ensure that I address all of them. The first question was, how does the number of voters on the pre-approved, alternatively put by some, the number of voters who are not on the voters list compared to other years? I think first of all we need to take into consideration that we have new technology that has its successes as well as its challenges. The challenges experienced during the registration weekend is well known, and part of the issues that we are dealing with today emanates from then. It is not the device itself on the day that is giving us challenges. We've had, and we shared this with our political parties up until last week, quantified the number at about 140,000. These are voters who we have detected. They have registered on or before the proclamation date. We have therefore determined that they are eligible, and we have ensured that they are enfranchised by including them on this list within a legislated framework. It is not a figment of the imagination. It is operated within a legislated framework. Parties were given copies of these lists, and we had also incorporated this into our voter management technology so that it would be no inconvenience whatsoever to the voter, as when a voter's ID would be scanned, that the voter would then be indicated that he would have the option of the MEC 7 and he would then vote flawlessly. This morning, we discovered that there were additional records residual on our voter management devices. Today was the highest number of voter management devices that we had switched on. We had in excess of 30,000 of our 40,000 devices that were switched on, and in the process, residual records that were still on the machines were uploaded. The exact number was 67,000 of these voters. And once again, we did our utmost to ensure that these voters are not disenfranchised. We had some challenges in uploading them as well onto the live file, but we had ascertained and briefed the PLC that as at 5 p.m., 35,000 of those voters had voted already, which leaves us with a residual of 32,000 voters. Of those 32,000, only 6,000 were scanned on these devices and they were not issued a ballot. To ensure that these voters do not miss out, we have sent out an SMS where we have contact details for these voters, apologizing and asking them please to return to the voting station to cast their vote. The remainder are voters who has not as yet been to the voting station. They will, however, because of the fix that we've made, their process will be flawless as they have now been verified, and should they present themselves to the voting station, they will be allowed to vote. The VMD, just to give us some of the success stories to the day, the figures that you are able to quote is figures that you would not have had in the past. They are live, and they have been made possible by the fact that each and every voter that has been scanned have been processed through our service, and they have become available immediately. So it's really an advancement in terms of the technology. I want to, however, caution that the numbers you are looking at is only the numbers for today. Please don't forget that we also had voting on Saturday, and those numbers are, I think we did share with you at the briefing yesterday, is about 400 and odd thousand that needs to add to this. They are ever excluded the home visits, which were not recorded via the VMD, and we are also preparing those figures for release, which we will have available soon. So all of those numbers needs to be added up. The other issue that we also need to consider is that the numbers that you have now are people who have already been processed. People who are standing in the queues have not been processed, and they obviously are not included. So the numbers will obviously still change. By how much, I can't tell you at this stage, and we will all only have a clear picture once all the queues have been dealt with. So perhaps, whilst it looks low, and I'm not promising that will increase significantly, it is perhaps maybe also a little bit early to begin to do comparisons. I hope that deals with all of those issues with regard to VMD and also the MEC 7s. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Masuku, can you deal with some of the questions there?
Can I just deal with?
Is it Tate Miepia? May I request Commissioner Miepia to deal with the remaining questions?
Thank you very much. There are a number of questions which will help each other to just deal with. I think Mamokate asked a question about the breakdown, if I got the name right, the breakdown of voter turnout and demographics. We will not be able to issue it at this point right now, but we will be able to do that analysis after voting. We always do this with every election, and we promise we will do so when we issue the results. I think Njanji asked the question about turnout at 8 million. Is that good? We have indicated earlier that we are measuring voter turnout as we go on this occasion. We are not able to give you comparative figures today, but at the next election and things, that's really what we're trying to do. So we will be, at the end of the day, we will tell, whether we have done well or we haven't. I have noted the question being asked really about turnout, and I think Samkelo asked it even harder and said, have we failed in communicating, or is this, a thing about a vote of confidence or the lack thereof in politics? I want us to keep that question if we can. Let's get to closing, because as you will recall, every voting station will keep a complete record. With every result, there will be a number of persons that came to vote, persons that were on MEC 7s, and persons that may have lodged objections. In other words, those that came, or that record will be complete, and we will be able to assess that, and we'll deal with the question, whatever it's telling us, we will deal with. But there's even a more important thing we must remind each other. In every election, the Electoral Commission does a survey. We use the Human Sciences Research Council to do that. They are on duty doing that. Part of that is asking persons what challenges they've had and so on and so forth. I know we will share that study before the end of the results center closing. You know, before we issue the final results, that information will also be made available to you. Natasha asked the question about change and the work or discussions that were underway. Indeed, discussions have been underway. We would want to invite you as the media to stay here. After this briefing, we will have a joint statement with change. And that's all I can indicate at this point. We have been dealing with quite a few things. You know, people you don't see here are working elsewhere, and we have an update for you there. There was an issue raised about, Sizwe asked the question about turnout. I think I've answered you that we can't compare immediately now, because this information we're harvesting, we've never harvested in the manner that we do today. The old scanner wasn't able to do this. The new one is helping us. And I think it's important, in addition to what Granville was saying, the reason we want to use this, it's not because we have to use it in law. We can simply brush it aside and do this. We believe the value in using it is to help us to serve our voters better, to understand their behavior so that we can deal with it, but also to give you information that you can use, and parties the information that they can use, that they can see who's turning out, well, the numbers of persons turning out, and if they feel in a particular area, you know, the turnout is low, they can go and mobilize there, but we're not there yet. This is work in progress. We're not required to do so in law. We are doing it as an initiative that we are asking you to help us even as we go into the future. Surely at the next elections and things like that, we will do very well at this.
May I request Dr. Masuku to deal with the remaining questions?
There was a last one on closing of voting stations in places. We reiterate our position. The Commission looks at the lay of the land. It looks at where challenges may have arisen in the course of the day, where we need to extend voting hours. We have those instruments in law available to us, and we exercise them as the situation calls for us to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Chairperson wants to add something. Chairperson, Mr. Mashonini.
Thank you. I think there was another question asked as to whether is the Commission aware of the alleged frog marching of Madam Zille. At this stage, we hadn't received that information, but certainly I think in due course we'll find out about that situation. Again, I think there is also the question as to whether there is any possibility of nullifying the election. The party concerned has had amicable discussions with the Commission, and a separate media statement on joint basis will be made to that effect. And if I'm not mistaken also, the issue about extending of hours, as we said, we are dealing with that situation on case-by-case basis. The areas that had been affected by delays in opening, the operations center is liaising directly with those centers. But in principle, those who are within the voting district boundaries are supposed to be processed before we close, unless there are situations or developments that might raise threatening situation and safety concerns. Then those things would be dealt with on case by case by the Commission. But the last one, I think, is for Samgia. I think it is the role of the esteemed Fourth Estate to critique, to analyze, to speculate, and to project and everything. And from where we are sitting, we would like at this stage to remain as scientific as possible. So the objective information that is before us is what we will present. The reports that have been alluded in terms of the surveys are still things to be presented. We still are to see and hear what observers are going to say. So it might be an early stage for the Commission to be making opinions and views and analysis. So it's not that we're not noting your questions as to whether this raises matters of confidence or no confidence. No, does it raise the issues of dismal performance? No, does it at this stage give any conclusive point to say there's a problem with the VMD? I think one thing we as South Africans need to really look at is that we are on a journey with our electoral systems. And if we are to look at the system, how it has evolved in the last 27 years, we are heads and shoulders on ahead of many countries around the world, or we are on par with our peers. So the automation is one of the issues that this VMD is ushering for the future. And in that process, yes, there would be trials, errors, mistakes, or whatever, but at this stage, we have conclusive proof and evidence that it's not the VMD failure. And we can put it before anybody scientifically to actually scrutinize that. In fact, where we're sitting, we need to be moving forward. The elections business process is only just touched the registration and the kind of statistical information that we are sharing with you because of moving from the barcode scanner, which was zip, at that time was seen as revolutionary, and it received a Smithsonian Award. And now we've moved to a point where we can locate you, we can be able to put you into where you live and all of that. In this particular stage, we are quite confident that it's not the question of the VMD failing. But there may be issues that relate to that we had limited time frame in uploading certain information because of, we know, the truncated time frame from 86 days to 42 days required that this institution should perform what is probably close to a miracle. And this is why we are where we are. We will work forward, going forward, and also be looking to say there's still other issues in the business process of more and more automation of our system. That include issues of eliminating human error in counting, in the tallying, in the transmission of the information. It's a journey. So I'm just saying, yes, we note these things, We are not at a point where we can respond and counter arguments and debates. We're just saying, let's get to the facts. And at the moment, we believe we are sharing with you as transparent everything that we're receiving as we are all sitting here. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair. I'm going to take the last round of questions. I'm worried about 9 o'clock, ne? We need to close. Let me start from this side because earlier on I ended this side. I'm going to start from that side. Dr. Masuku, have I missed any question? We have covered just one. May you please deal with it? And then we'll start from this side. Please do.
My apologies, colleagues. I think this is an important question in terms of where we are. Someone asked if the MEC 7 process is a new process. No, it is not. It is in section 7.2 of the Municipal Electoral Act. Thank you.
Thank you very much for clarification, Dr. Masuku. May I start this way and then go this way? No repeats, ne? All right, brilliant. Let's start this side.
Thank you so much. Francis Luamachate from Progressive Independent News Agency. What is the significance of the zip machine in the voting process? I'm asking this because a number of voting stations that I visited today, I visited over 12 voting stations. Over 70% of them did not have a working zip machine. And how does this affect the entire process of ensuring free, fair, and transparent elections? And for the future, would you consider having at least one wheelchair per voting station? I'm asking this because in 3 different voting stations, I saw people who wanted to go and vote, and they could not work. One was amputated. He was struggling to even get into the voting station with the stretchers that he had. And I was thinking, if maybe there were wheelchairs, then that would have helped. And eventually, another political party had to now usher this person in a car into the voting station because he was not able to go into the voting station because of that. That might also affect how will this person now vote as what he might have decided earlier, and now a particular political party ushering him because he was struggling. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Lukona Mnguni, Power 98.7. Just a quick one. I'm sure you are aware of voting station monitoring download PDFs doing rounds on various WhatsApp platforms and social media platforms with your IEC emblems. However, those downloads for 1,800 hours and 1915 are actually at the same figure, 6.8 million. Now, clearly, this might contribute confusion in the communication process and creates doubt in the figure that you have just noted now of 8 million. Secondly, back to the point I'd raised in the previous briefing, this investigation on shortage of ballot papers doesn't have figures. How many voting stations are you aware that actually ran out of ballot papers before 12 p.m., which is something that should never ever be happening? And as I had asked, who is going to be taking accountability for this, and what was the turnaround time on average on those voting stations that actually ran out of ballot papers quite prematurely? Thank you.
Salailo Makwidiri here, Salam Media and One Nation FM. I just wanted to quickly find out if the voting stations that were hardly affected by the VMDs, are they going to receive an extension, number one? Number two, have they been identified? And if so, can maybe the chair share with us? And also, would the IEC consider increasing the general time of the elections, considering the low voter turnout and the failures with the VMDs?
Good evening. Hang on, just hold this side. Just hold this side. Let me finish and then come this way. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Kate. Mahlatse, Eyewitness News. Tate Mashinini, you are defending the machines, and I just want clarity. You are saying that they have not failed, but my understanding of the process was that it started off with the registration weekend when you couldn't upload the people that had come forward to register. And that is why we have an issue of people that are not necessarily appearing on the voters' roll, even though you've made a process and trying to help. But you're sending people SMSs to come back and vote, etc. The second issue is that all of the, or at least most of the political parties we've spoken to, have complained about these machines, that when they are offline, they delay voting, and in places where those queues are then long, then people lose faith and they give up and they leave, or it happens that they're not at the right place after having stood in a queue, then they give up and vote. So I'm just trying to get clarity when you defend the machine itself. Where then is the problem? Is it network? Is it, what exactly is the problem?
Thank you very much. I'm going to move to this block. I've got 2 questions. Then afterwards, we move to the last block.
Yes, thank you very much. You did mention that there were other incidents of unrest, and you said you might be able to give us some kind of detail about that unrest that you picked up. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Thank you. Just to follow up on my part, you've said that 8 million votes have already been cast, and you are not able, obviously, to give us what the final figure will look like, given the fact that the stations are still open. Are you, though, able to tell us, of the 8 million votes, as to where the percentages of where they came from? Do we have a scenario of where we have a Western Cape with the highest number? If so, which of the provinces has the lowest percentage? Can you share those details with us?
Okay. My name is Norman Masungwini from City Press. Earlier on, you mentioned that there were incidents whereby IEC officials were arrested, and some were dismissed. Are you in a position to tell us how many incidents and how many officials have been dismissed and arrested up to so far? And what happened to those reported stuffed ballot boxes? Are they going to be part of the counting? Thank you.
Good evening, Jan Gerber, News 24. Action SA earlier today released a statement complaining that many of their voters said they couldn't find the party on the voting on the ballot paper. Did the IEC receive any such complaints? And secondly, what issues did the parties raise at the party liaison committee, and how have those issues been addressed? Thanks.
Good evening, Kaya Koko from Mail and Guardian. I just need clarification on one of the previous answers. Is it 140,000 plus voters that the IEC failed to upload initially, plus the 67,000, or is the current figure now at 6,000? Just please clarify the answer.
Thank you very much. Looks like we have covered the questions from this side. I know Bonolo had 1 or 2 questions from the online system. Can we just bundle that together so that the panelists can deal with this last group of questions? Because 9 o'clock is threatening, so we need to go and close. Let's go, Ceci.
Okay. The first one comes from Marvin Adams, and he says, has the IEC noted the increasing violence that often follows elections? And has the Justice Cluster briefed the IEC on incidents that occurred from the time the polls opened today? We also have one from Cape Argus, and they say, voters in Straybrand Park, Cape Town, have complained of registration failures. How are these being sorted, and who will they be able to complain to? The last one says, is the IEC aware of any irregularities? Okay, this one I think came through earlier. Yes, Tando Kubeka from Eyewitness News says, there has also been issues with voting stations being offline and people not being able to cast their ballots. How is this going to be addressed? The last one is from Lizega Tandwa at Mail and Guardian, and she says, there's a call that the government must suspend curfew for today. Is this a call that the IEC supports?
Can you repeat the last question, please, Bonolo?
Okay. The last question says, there's a call for government to suspend curfew today. Is this a call that the IEC supports?
Okay. Thank you very much. The IEC panel is ready to take this last batch of questions and issues of clarity. Grenville, are you the one to start first? Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. First of all, the significance of zip-zips. May I just add that none of the technology is a requirement in terms of the voting process as contained in the legislation. These are merely tools to assist us to make our jobs easier. The zip-zip, we have decided to deploy the zip-zip to assist us with the queue management and also to direct or redirect voters, specifically in the cases where we have voting centers. So this would normally be at a school, and we'd have a number of classrooms. So to direct the person to the correct classroom, we would use the zip-zip. If the zip-zip was not present, or if the zip-zip, for whatever reason, malfunctioned, then this would in no way affect the voting process. It's just a tool to aid us. Then the issue of ballot papers is in the cases where they happened, in the isolated cases where they happened. This is attributed to the management of the distribution of ballots. There is no way that we would run out of ballot papers. We provide for 110%, and we round up to a full ballot paper. And if you look at the turnout, as you have mentioned now, there is absolutely no way that we would run out of ballot papers. So in the cases where we have where the ballot papers weren't present, we were able to remedy those timeously. I think the ones where we probably had the longest delay was in about 12 to 15 voting stations in eThekwini, but those were also resolved during the course of the day. I don't know where the narrative comes from about VMDs being offline and hampering the voting process. The VMD is fully equipped to operate in offline mode. And in offline mode, you do not need connectivity. So if connectivity is a requirement to work online, then I can assure you in offline mode, it will work faster rather than slower, since there is no connection required. So there is no truth in the fact that BMDs were offline and it delayed the process. We are aware of one occurrence during the day where we were briefly had delays on the machines. We are however easily remedied that by issuing instruction to all of our voting stations just to restart machines, and then the processing happened smoothly after that. We were monitoring the processing of transactions for the entire day, and there was at no stage through the network or through the APN any strains or stresses that we could not deal with. And we can prove that in terms of the performance of the system. So there is no way that if it was that a voting station worked in offline mode, that it would delay the process. I think there was a question as to the numbers or the returns having been unchanged for a specific period. I didn't get the duration, but the reports that we make available, that's in our internal system, so you would have received it from our people in the operational cross, they are updated periodically. So I don't know what the interval of the period was, or the date of and time, or the time of the reports that you have, but I can assure you they are updated. I think it's every 15 minutes. I think that some of the questions were repeated. So just to go through them again, voting stations that were offline, it cannot be, as after what I've explained, that voters were not able to vote, because this does not impact on the process at all. Thanks.
May I request Dr. Masuku to deal with the question of a wheelchair on our voting stations, please?
Thank you very much, Kate. I think at this point in stage, we can only welcome the recommendation. How we deal with recommendations is that after an election, we have a different debriefing process that looks at how we can improve. If you, with your permission, can we please deal with that suggestion at the time? But thank you for the offer.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We've got a very, very long night. Have I missed any question? Commissioner Miepsha?
Yeah, I think.
All right.
I think we acknowledge that you have many questions. If you look at your time, we're at 9. I'd like to ask you for your indulgence.
Yeah.
There will be a number of stations that close at 9, and as usual, shortly thereafter, we'll be ready to issue a result. I ask you, we will be talking probably still tonight again, and some of those questions we can deal with. On the issue of where unrest, I think my sister asked the question, for us to say more. We did not bring that information, but we will provide that information. In relation to Lukona's question on the social media thing, I can understand that if something started circulating at 6, it doesn't update the figures that keep updated. We'll look at that. We have a social media team, and they will address the question. But the numbers are not static in real life. They, as people go in, they update. The last thing that was asked was that the question in relation to persons that are going to be in stations, party agents, observers and things. We have accreditation for them. That accreditation should serve them. For voters that have voted on time, we imagine that the curfew would not be an issue. But those persons that are in an election, they have something on them that will help them. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Miepsha and the rest of the commissioners. I'm going to pause this segment of the press briefing and allow commissioners who are not part of the next segment that are released from the stage. Dr. Masuku, thank you very much. When you lead commissioners out of the stage, I'm going to request Commissioner Miepsha to remain with me as we deal with the second part of the press briefing, which is the matter of change, and then the change leadership will join Commissioner Miepsha as we deal with that part of the press briefing. Dr. Masuku and the team, thank you very much, and thanks for joining us.
I'll get it.
CEO and then let's call them. Yeah, they're going to. Yeah, I think CEO has everything is probably CEO and then but it doesn't matter. trying to, we must get Mama Bolo. Has Mama Bolo shown you the statement? Okay. Tell the people to give us just 5 minutes. Ma, yeah. Tell the people to give us just 5 minutes.
If I may request the media here just to bear with us, we just want the CEO to join us for this presser, and then we'll be done. Voting station closed, Sesine, and then counting begins. Yo, number face.
Oh, yeah, no.
Ladies and gentlemen, we please begin the last part of the press briefing this evening. I'm going to, 2 minutes, okay. Let me get everybody settled. Ladies and gentlemen, as promised, the Chief Electoral Officer, Mr. Mamabolo, has joined the second part of the press briefing. He's joined Commissioner Miepia next to him. And then on the right side of Commissioner Miepia, we've got Mr. Lisiba Molokomme, who's the president of Change Party. Next to him is Mr. Bongani Mgomezulu, who is the national chairperson of Change Party. Without much ado, let me welcome Commissioner Miepia to come and read the statement so that we begin to wrap up this press briefing. Ntate?
Thank you, Kate. Thank you. I'd like to say good evening once again to the media and to our nation at large. I'm going to read a joint statement that Change and ourselves have come to finalize after discussions we have had. It has been a long day. The discussions were long, but we found each other and we have agreed that we will issue this statement for now and inform you where we ended and leave you with that information. I am afraid we have agreed that we will inform you, but we will not deal with questions. Please bear with us. It will be evident to you. I want to read the statement. The Electoral Commission and Change Party wish to announce that they have reached an amicable solution to the problem of the incorrect name of the Change Party on the PR ballot papers for Ekurhuleni and the city of Johannesburg. The discussions between the parties unfolded in a cordial spirit, seeking to find a solution to an obviously intractable challenge. The Commission offers its sincere apologies to the leadership, supporters, and voters of Change Party for this error on the ballot. The leadership of Change approached the matter with a view to seeking a resolution in the national interest and not just for their own partisan interest. The Commission has great appreciation of this disposition and wishes to thank Change leadership for the position we have arrived at. We issue this as a joint statement, and we want you to know, as South Africans, that this nation can still find people of goodwill who deal with issues in an amicable way that we have dealt with this matter. And we wish to thank you for your attention. Thank you indeed.
Ladies and gentlemen, this brings to an end the second part of the press briefing. Thank you very much for your time. We'll get together again when we've got further developments. Thank you very much, CEO, Commissioner Miepia, Change Party leadership. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Yeah.